Alright guys, so we're going to close off the panel schedule this weekend with Beyond Godzilla. And if anyone wants to contribute to this panel, there's a small audience, so I'd be happy to let you guys pitch in. It's basically going to be about non-Godzilla tokusatsu fare. Originally I wanted to do like Toho sci-fi and fantasy. I do need some silence in this room so I can speak, please.
Venkman.
Thank you.
Venkman. Sorry, he's trying to do his panel.
Sorry. You're good. So, but I think we should just expand beyond that because I know there's a couple films that are worthy of talking about. And I think I will let Jonathan go first.
Oh, jeez. Me? Well, I mean, first, I know there is a film that I've been eyeing for a long time that I still have to get for, a copy of, but Daigoro vs. Goliath is a great film, released back in 1972. Not really talked about much, honestly, which before we even started the panel, Lyngle and I were discussing about the film itself. It was a Tsuburaya and Toho production collaboration film for Tsuburaya's 10th anniversary, was it?
Yes.
Yes, and that's something that I actually did not know up until recently, and I thought that was pretty cool because just the fact that it's both production companies, working on this film entirely, it's something that was near to my heart. A very great film, family-friendly film, even though it's got some pretty funny scenes in it that I wouldn't think would be for kids, but still a great film.
I think the scene that sticks out to me is right at the end. Isn't it hippopotamus Daigoro? Can you guys remind me?
Yes, Daigoro.
It's been a hot minute
He's the
since I've
hippo
seen this
monster.
movie. I think Daigoro goes into what looks like a porta potty. That
Yes,
really
yes, it
confused me when I watched that movie. I was like, is he like using a kaiju-sized porta potty? That is bizarre.
It's a big boy toilet, isn't it?
So yeah, it was like 71. I'm gonna ballpark that. You got to pull up right there. Is it 71?
No, 72.
72. I was off by a year. But it was also playing, I believe, at the Champion Festival, which had fun stuff like all the 70s Godzilla films played there. Re-edited, cut episodes of Ultraman shows, like episode 2, 3, and 4, cut into a movie, played there. So it's really interesting that there's not stuff for kids film festival.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's good to get them, understanding these things a little sooner, but not too soon, There hasn't really been a lot of stuff that are like family friendly, realistically, but I feel like this alone is very close to that.
Do you think it's like Showa Gamera, kind of? Or do you
Yeah,
think it's a little different? What do you guys think?
Very chitty bang bang. Whimsical kind of kaiju film.
It's kind of unique. I don't really see any other kaiju films that are quite like that. Like, you could make the comparison to Showa Gamera, but it's kind of a different kid-friendly, if that makes sense.
A little bit of Babe.
Just the plot itself.
Babe, the mice transition. They did a little 2 weeks later. They do that little transition that Babe Butter uses in their films.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the pig movies or something.
Yeah, the pig movie.
Oh, are you? I haven't seen Babe, so I'm
Oh,
not sure. I don't think that's a kaiju film, Ramsey.
No, it isn't. But ahead of its time.
Not with that attitude.
Did you have more to say about Daigoro vs. Goliath, or should we let Alex gush about his movie?
Oh, no, I would like Alex.
Red Moon.
Huh?
Red Moon.
Red Moon.
Godzilla versus Red Moon.
Oh.
Yeah, one thing people don't know about Daigoro vs. Goliath is that it was originally supposed to be a Godzilla movie produced by Tsuburaya Productions. In fact, Toho approved of it and offered to loan them a Godzilla suit, which allegedly would have been the Musugu Goji suit from Son of Godzilla.
Oh.
But for whatever reason, Tsuburaya couldn't work out a deal with Toho, and they heavily modified it into this movie.
Now, which suit was that for? Was that for Goliath or?
Goliath would have been Red Moon.
Goliath would have been Red Moon. Daigoro would have been the monster Hafun, who was the offspring of Red Moon, and Erebus, who was replaced with Daigoro's mother.
Baby Daigoro.
Yes.
I didn't know about that Red Moon connection.
Neither
This is
did
why
I.
these guys are on this panel. This is awesome.
I mean, neither did I. That's
Oh.
entirely new for me. I didn't know that that was supposed to be the original plot for the film or the original storyline. That was supposed to be Godzilla vs. Red Moon.
Yeah.
And what makes it interesting too is because during the 1970s, Tokusatsu wasn't really mainstream, and this movie had much higher production values than the Godzilla films, which during that time had a budget of roughly $250,000 to $300,000. So this movie, if I remember correctly, had a budget of like $750,000 because you watch this movie, it has really good effects. It has a very
It does.
yeah.
In scale props, actually, it's what you don't see often in the Godzilla films and such.
Mm-hmm.
So you could say that Daigoro vs. Goliath is better than some of the Godzilla films.
Oh,
The other thing too is, you look at the miniatures in the movie and you compare it to the Godzilla films because normally there would be 3 different scales for miniatures. There'd be smaller ones in the background and larger ones in the foreground, which they could make more detailed. But during that time, all the miniatures were the same size in the Godzilla films. This movie still has that tradition, so it still feels like it's like a transition. It's like a 70s kaiju film, but it has the production values of a 60s film.
That's a really good way to put it. I never looked at it that way. But now that you point it out, that is 100% what happened there. That's really interesting. So I'll probably have to watch this again on my flight back.
other than Daigoro vs. Goliath, have you guys? Do you guys have any other films or TV series that are beyond Godzilla?
Well, I know Alex is obsessed with a little movie called Prophecies of Nostradamus.
Yeah, so to give you guys a little context, after Destroy All Monsters, Godzilla wasn't a mainstream franchise anymore. Instead, they were part of a Japanese program called the Toho Champion Festival, which was designed to lure kids out of the house from the televisions. And usually these movies highlighted or headlined a much longer program that ran for about 3 hours and consisted mostly of short cartoons, sports events, and maybe an episode of one of the TV shows like Ultraman or Mirror Man. So, rather than release Godzilla films and kaiju films in mainstream theaters, Toho found a new source of revenue through disaster films, starting with the 1973 film Submersion of Japan, which involved Japan sinking into the ocean. And this movie had a much bigger budget than the Godzilla films at the time. As I said, the budget was between $250,000 to $300,000 per film. Submersion of Japan had a budget of $2 million, and it was a huge success for Japan at the time. And if I recall correctly, it was the best-selling film that year. So, Toho wanted to follow this up with a new movie called Prophecies of Nostradamus, released in 1974. This movie again had a big budget and was inspired by a book from 1973 by Tsutomu Goto about the Prophecies of Nostradamus. And while the film is interesting, it has a lot of mystique to it, it's very hard to find because shortly after it was released, the film was banned due to its depiction of irradiated humans after nuclear fallout.
Oh, geez, that I didn't know. Jeez, man.
Yeah, it's a pretty infamous film. Has anyone in the audience seen Prophecies of Nostradamus? I bet these.
And it's that good of a film. And
I couldn't say. I do remember that sequence though.
oh man.
Yeah, I know the front row was all like,
Yeah.
I watched
First
it.
time last night.
For him.
First time was.
Well, of course
last
you
night?
guys have seen it. You're the one that told me about it.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, no, I'm gonna have to watch this now because I know he's mentioned it to me before, but I have never seen the film, and this sounds right up my
He
alley.
does have a great score by Sal Tomito.
Agreed. It is one of the greatest soundtracks to any movie you'll ever hear.
Pioneer and
It's-
synth.
Stylistically, it's a mix of old school synthwave, 70s rock, and classical music.
That
And it's one of the most bizarre avant-garde styles you'll ever hear.
What else did that composer do? Do you know at all?
Isao Tomita released a lot of solo albums back then, and he did a few animated films in Japan at the time. I know there were a few really big ones, but I can't remember what they were.
He's mostly known here. He did electronic versions of classical music.
That's right.
There's one he did called Bermuda Triangle, which basically takes classical themes as the raw material, and he synthesizes it to make his own original science fiction.
Oh, wow.
Well, fun fact, originally he was supposed to compose Apocalypse Now, but they couldn't get him at the time.
That I didn't know. Now, the fact that we're talking more about him, do you consider him taking any inspiration at all from like John Carpenter's work, or is this because since he is using samples of that music to create his own, is this entirely a new thing for everyone?
I would say he has his own unique style, although it does have kind of that kind of out there Ennio Morricone style to it.
Yes.
But going back to the film, the last time it's been seen publicly was on a television screening in Japan in 1980. If you guys do want to see it, it's out there. I can't say where you can find it, but an employee at the studio leaked the film. It's not good quality, but it's the best you can do. Take what you can get.
3 versions.
Yeah, Cameron, oh, go ahead.
I know that there was kind of a Nostradamus kick in Japan back at the time, thanks to the translation of some of his works. And there was kind of a thing about prophecy. As I read about in the book, Little Boy, The Arts of Japan's Exploding Subculture.
Who's that by?
It's edited by... it's on the tip of my tongue. He does the great sort of cartoon things with multiple eyes. Murakami, I think. Takashi Murakami, I think.
Awesome. I'll have to read that book because I
When
do.
was this?
What, the Nostradamus of the book?
The book you're talking about?
Yeah, when was the book
In
published?
2004.
Okay.
It was really only, it was published in San Francisco with an anime exhibition. And it goes on about Hello Kitty, Pokemon, Evangelion, and the cultural context behind Godzilla and everything else in Japan's pop culture. But Nostradamus was a big thing, and
I have heard that, yeah.
and it led, and this is slightly dark, it and a lot of other stuff led to Auschwitz. The attacks in 1995 and 6. They had, they went with Nostradamus, they had a little bit of Macross and other things in their philosophy. Yeah, they were a weird bunch. To put it mildly.
Hey, Alex, what do you personally like about Prophecies of Nostradamus?
What I like about Prophecies of Nostradamus is it's a tokusatsu film from the 1970s, but it has a much higher production value than the Godzilla films at the time. So it's cool to see what we could have gotten if it had been a Godzilla film. And also because, you know, like I said, it has a very bizarre avant-garde soundtrack to it, which is one of the greatest soundtracks you'll ever hear if you ever get a chance to hear it.
Go ahead, Ramsey.
You done? Sorry.
And on top of that, even though everything in this movie is fictional, it's all grounded in reality. All the disasters that happen in this movie are the result of the man-made world. It's a result of failing technologies, it's a result of climate change, and it's all stuff that we still see today, just on a smaller scale, such as food shortages, which escalate into wars. There's a fear of nuclear wars, there's a fear of food rationing. And, even with recent years, everything that we've seen, there are a lot of scenes that parallel that. There's a lot of scenes that are very similar to what we saw in the past few years, and it's also a nice way to see, the fears of the time.
I like that because there's always something to be afraid of. Like if you go through,
Oh yeah, exactly.
if you go through history, things have always scared people. There's always monsters to scare people, or other people that are afraid of other people. If that makes sense.
Not, as well as that, there's a lot of fears that people are now encountering that they would have never known to begin with. As growing into who they are at the time. That's what I understand. But Ramsey, what were you gonna
Oh, well, I don't want. I was just saying, yeah. I think one of the things you mentioned with the disasters and, like you said, fear at the time. At the time, it's also a time capsule of just what they feared in that moment, but also what we weren't exactly on. We were also unsure of. Like a big moment that involves a supersonic transport plane. They were kind of new at the same time, and they were different. Flew different heights, used more oxide and stuff like that. And people had the biggest fear if it ever went wrong. How could that affect the planet itself? Mm-hmm. And there's a scene in the film that has a chain reaction where it involves one exploding and it causes the ozone to open up, floods, heat, all that kind of stuff. And the idea of this brand new thing, if it malfunctioned, what could it do? And the fear about what that kind of happened. You got disasters in there, you're not going to get any other films because it's so relegated to what was at the time unknown that feared, everybody exaggerated what they thought it could be.
So, this is just speculation, but if they had made Prophecies of Nostradamus in 1997 or 98, around there, do you think, the emergence of the internet and, the Y2K thing would have played a part in a potential movie done that time?
It definitely would, in this depiction of 1999 attack, it definitely would have included that in there somewhere, for sure, and stuff.
I think the other thing that makes this film so interesting is Yoshimitsu Banno, the director and screenwriter for Godzilla vs. Ghidorah, is the assistant director and screenwriter for this. So he adds that bizarre twist to the cinematography and the writing and the styles.
That explains a lot now.
The pollution thing, heavy pollution usage in it.
Yeah, exactly. That explains the reason why this movie is, made to show people what can really happen.
Yeah, and Banno's style is documentarian. I'm not sure if that's because he began his career as one, or if it's just how his style evolved. Someone could let me know in the audience if I'm correct on that.
That's the perfect way to describe the first half of the film. It's very documentary and explaining how the planet's affected, what's the ozone's happening, and what the pollution is causing the heat change.
That's right up his alley.
The other thing that makes it terrifying too is there's a lot of real photographs and a lot of real footage used in this movie involving floods or mass starvation or just natural disasters.
Yeah,
and it has one of the most chilling openings to any movie you'll ever hear because on top of this eerie music, it has photographs involving the Vietnam War or oil spills or mass industry.
And images correlating to his actual prophecies that did come true in many ways.
Yes, and all the prophecies that are listed in this movie are real.
So, did they pick and choose certain prophecies? Because I know Nostradamus was making predictions left and right throughout his life. He's got 1,000 of them.
Well, they couldn't use every prediction, but they use prophecies that tie into the events of the movie. And on top of that, like I said, this was based on a book by the author Tsutomu Goto from the previous year, who, if I'm not mistaken, was also involved in the screenwriting.
Okay, all right.
Man, we're jumping from Daigoro versus Goliath to the most controversial Toho film ever made. Besides Half Human, but I don't know if we're going to talk about Half Human. I want to talk about the Mysterians.
You want to talk about the
My
Mysterians?
favorite Toho film is the Mysterians.
Oh, man.
I'm of the camp that the Mysterians is a masterpiece. I think it's just as good as Rodan and Gojira.
I feel like I need a rerun of the Mysterians because it's been quite some time since I've seen it. It was released in '57, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, that movie was very wacky. And plus, that's the first official appearance of what we have of Mogira too as well.
Yeah.
That movie that was a bizarre one.
It's one of the first alien invasion films where they pretend to be our friends. And it's pretty much, if you've seen the movie, you know it's kind of the proto-invasion of Astro Monster. So what they learned from the Mysterians, they perfected an invasion of Astro Monster. I just kind of like the Mysterians for... Go ahead.
It was also the first color tokusatsu film that they did in widescreen.
That's true. It's just a super important movie in Toto's
Seriously
library.
needs a US Blu-ray.
Yeah, it really does.
I would, the Criterion collection or something. I think they should put out a Honda set, just like the Godzilla set.
If I may, I would like to say that the soundtrack to that movie is by far one of my favorites, if not my absolute favorites. Kube knocked it out of the park with that one. He really just worked his ass off to that. Just made it amazing.
Isn't it the first alien invasion film by Toho too?
Yes.
I believe so.
Yeah, because I don't think they've done anything before that because it was Gojira, Godzilla Raids Again, a
Right.
Rodan,
Half human.
Half Human. I'm sorry, I don't know much about that one, honestly.
I guess we could go into Half Human a little bit.
Yeah.
Half Human was just as controversial as Prophecies of Nostradamus for a different reason. It's supposed to be, and I saw it 10 years ago, so some of the veterans that I'm looking at right now might need some help. So I think it was released as Beastman Snowman. It's like a Yeti movie.
Monster Snowman.
Monster Snowman. Thank you. It has some not so Daigoro versus Goliath levels of portrayals of indigenous people, so it's not very friendly. So Toho was pretty much like, let's just sweep this one under the rug.
Yeah, nobody's gonna know about this project. Let's just work under the table real quickly. But wow, okay.
So that one is also unavailable officially, but I can't really disclose this sitting on this table, but if you want to see it, you can find it.
The only thing about Half Human is that, aside from the elephant in the room there, it's kind of just a boring movie.
I would call it very just quaint. I mean, it's more on par with your 70s, the wilderness adventure kind of films and stuff. I mean, it definitely is more interesting in its use of special effects. There are some kind of interesting choices and experimental stuff they do in there for stop motion, composite shots of trying to have a monster pick somebody up but layer it over it instead of actually picking the person up. And, some interesting choices in that way. And then, in terms of the sci plot, it's kind of a Kaijin era kind of film when you think about the way it depicts the monster and how it moves around the environment.
Yeah, it kind of plays more like a low-level monster movie where it's just like a human-sized, maybe just a little bigger creature.
So the fact that you guys mentioned there's stop motion used in this film, correct?
Yeah.
Man, just thinking about stop motion, all of a sudden I'm thinking about Phil Tippett's Mad God. That movie is such a bizarre movie, but it's such a beautiful film entirely.
There's a couple giant monsters in that.
Yeah, there's a few giant monsters, bizarre monsters, and abnormally sized giants that you would not expect to be in the movie for the reason that they're used for.
I mean, Tippett designed the Rancor. If we're going into other movie monsters that aren't from Japan, I love the Rancor personally.
Oh man, yeah, the Rancor is a great one.
That was supposed to be a man in a suit.
It's supposed to be a menace suit. I read that this weekend. It was supposed to be like a Godzilla suit.
And then
They
they
also
use
did the thing from Howard the Duck.
Yes.
The big thing at the end of it.
The Dark,
Was Tippett, yeah.
the Dark Overlord of the universe.
Oh yeah. I forgot about that. I forgot about Howard the Duck.
Didn't Phil Tippett also do the special effects for what eventually became the Disney dinosaur film in 2000?
Did he? You're talking about the 1999 release, correct?
2000.
It's 2000.
Or is it 2000? For some reason I thought it was 1999.
I would have to check on that one,
I don't
but it sounds right.
And that one.
Tippett's the Star Wars and Jurassic Park guy. We all know that stuff.
True. But yeah, no, when I heard stop motion, I thought immediately about Phil Tippett,
I mean, if we're going stop motion, you gotta talk about King Kong.
Oh yeah, no, of course.
Elephant in the room.
Yeah, of course. 30's King Kong. That was
90 years old, and if you watch it, I mean, everyone in this room has seen King Kong, right?
No, what do you mean? I've never seen it.
You've never seen King Kong?
No, what is it?
And you call yourself a kaiju fan.
Get off that stage.
Okay, I'm just checking. There might be,
Get off the stage, you.
Ban that guy.
But you go back and watch it, and it holds up so well for a 90-year-old movie.
Yes,
And it has not aged a day.
No, I will always return back to 33's King Kong any day, any time. It's just such a great film. The stop motion is amazing. I still wish that they included that Triceratops scene, the deleted scene that you can find, online, and it's such
Only the spider pit scene happened.
Allegedly.
Man.
Allegedly now.
Allegedly, it may not have happened at all.
No, unfortunately, more evidence now.
That one's also a great film, and as well as 1917's The Lost World.
1925.
Was it 25?
Yes.
Why did I think 17 all of a sudden? Yeah, get me off the stage.
25,
guys.
and then there was a 56 one that I actually have not seen yet.
There
But
was
I
a
have.
56?
Yeah.
Yeah, they had like iguanas and stuff instead of dinosaurs running around.
Irwin Allen produced that.
Yeah, that's back when dinosaurs were just lizards with horns glued on them.
Actually, we used some of that footage in Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea.
Wow.
But I'm going to stay on the King Kong tangent.
Yes.
Because I have an interesting story with Kong 76, which might be the Kong for
These two guys, I'm not sure. Maybe. You guys might hate the movie, we'll see.
What's that supposed to mean?
They were around when it came out.
What is that? Some kind of insult?
See, I watched 76 when I was younger, and I thought it was just hokey. I was like, this kind of sucks.
Man, I sort of remember 76. Sort of.
I mean, so I watched 76 when it came out on 4K like a couple months ago, and I was just like, you know what? Maybe I was a little too harsh on this. This is actually pretty good. And I mean, having John Barry do the score, that King Kong score is phenomenally great.
Mm-hmm.
You guys all listen to John Barry's Kong score?
Yeah, John. A lot of James Bond films he's under his belt.
I am a Bond fanatic, but that's not what this panel's about. But my Kong was the 05 Kong, and I know it's like 3 hours long and goes on for a while, but I have a lot of fun and fondness for that one.
Yeah, no, that film gives me. I have a lot of memories of that film, especially playing the video game too, the original Peter Jackson King Kong, the video game.
It's a great game.
That game is a great game. But a lot of the scenes from that 2005 film were so memorable, as well as Jack Black playing in that film too.
That was a weird casting choice, but it kind of worked.
It worked. It really did work.
I remember people talking when it first was announced. They were like, "What? The School of Rock guy is going to be a King Kong?"
What is he going to be doing in this movie? No, but it really fitted very
He's got the
well.
charisma for Carl Denham.
He really did, and even though Carl Denham from the original, the 33, was completely different character, he gave a different atmosphere to the film, and then we got Jack Black playing as Carl Denham, which just completely changed it all.
I liked it. I did when I'm gonna backtrack a little bit.
Yeah.
I do like the changes in '76, like making it about like they're looking for oil and then they find Skull Island. That was a perfect updating of the story.
Oh,
The modern setting too.
The modern setting.
Kong in a modern city for the first
Kong in a
time.
modern city for the first time. Kong climbing the World Trade Center was interesting.
yeah, it's been a while since I've seen that. I don't remember any of that, that entire plot. I'm just like, wait a minute, this actually
It's the
happened.
story of Kong, but it is a little different at the beginning and at the end.
Okay.
It's cheesy in the best way, the visuals of it. The cage of King Kong is first disguised as a giant gas pump. Inside it. It's so cheesily American.
Yes. They put a giant crown on him, and I always thought that was the hokiest part, but somehow it works.
Also in the 05 one, horror and kaiju nut Bob Burns has a very brief cameo in it.
Yeah.
Is he one of the gunners?
Bob Burns, he is a collector of old horror and Godzilla and King Kong.
I know who Bob Burns is. I was just wondering where he was in the movie. I'm sorry.
He and his wife just have a very, very brief cameo. It's like 3 seconds long, but if you know what he looks like.
It's when Kong leaps out the front of the theater. When he's on the street. He's across the street when they react to the gorilla landing in the street out of the theater building.
Gotcha. Because I know Baker is one of the gunners in a plane at the end of 05.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. Well, I want to know some of your guys' favorites real quick, because I have gushed about the Mysterians. Alex loves Nostradamus. You just have to leave real quick for a photo op. Vito.
Frankenstein Conquers the World.
Yes.
That is a masterpiece. You know what? That movie, aside from the Godzilla series, is my all-time favorite kaiju film.
And you know I'm a Baragon fanatic.
I do.
That was Baragon's first.
Yes.
It was.
Yeah.
It was originally supposed to be Godzilla versus Frankenstein, but then they switched it out when they couldn't agree on what to do with Godzilla and Frankenstein. And they were like, let's just make this thing Godzilla-like monster, Baragon.
Now, is
Looks
this
just
a
like
Toho movie we're talking about, or is this just?
Beyond Godzilla. We can do Toho. We just talked about King Kong.
Yeah, we talked.
You can talk about Ultraman if you want.
One movie I think that deserves kind of like some love, but in kind of like a really kind of funny, cheesy way is Reptilian.
Oh man, I haven't heard that. in a while.
Honestly, like it's terribly made, but in so many good ways because it's so much fun. So
I like the guys that are like flying around the skyscrapers on jetpacks.
yeah,
Have you seen its predecessor, Yongari?
yes.
Okay.
Actually, believe it or not, I prefer the remake over the original.
That's
Mainly
interesting.
because the Kenny.
Because of what?
Because the kid character kind of like drove me nuts.
Yeah.
No.
I mean,
The Kenny. Okay.
Yeah.
it's like camera syndrome.
Yes,
Do you-
I've seen that as well. That was a really fun movie.
The D-War.
D-War? D-War, yeah.
D-War came out when I was like 10. I'm gonna carbon date myself.
I
again
remember
for the
D-War.
audience.
Yeah, D-War was a crazy movie.
I just remember.
Did Reptilian.
Oh, nice. I remember seeing all
makes
the
sense,
trailers
actually.
for it. It was like Dragon Wars, and I was like, oh, dude, these two dragons are gonna kill each other. This is gonna be a great movie.
It's like, cool, they're gonna do some
And
cool stuff.
I'm gonna watch it, and I did watch it, and it was kind of disappointing. I'm like, where are the dragons? Come on, kill each other. Let's go. Want some action?
Man, this is a very off topic, but I want to bring it up. Have you guys seen what's going on with Rebirth, the camera? With
Oh yeah, like the anime, get rid of it.
yes,
They
with
just announced another kaiju.
yes,
Just announced
that-
Zebra.
I wanted to talk about that, even though we haven't seen it yet. I don't know if that's appropriate for this panel.
Yeah, it's Beyond Godzilla.
Well, it's Beyond Godzilla.
I'm casual about it.
So so far, yeah, we have new post of Zegra, and this was something that I was talking with dealer in the dealer's room, Creature Preacher, who's a good friend. He was actually talking to me about it. He sent me the photo last night when they dropped it, and he's like, "Hey, it's Zegra," and I was like, "Oh, it is Zegra," but something about, he said, this design looks very familiar because the design that they have on the poster, it looks very similar to one of his design Zegras that he actually made before, like years ago. So the fact that they dropped Zegra and it looks very similar to his design, he was like, I wonder if they're taking my my ideas or sort, but
I just like the idea that. Have you guys seen that photo? Everybody here?
Yeah.
Cool, I figured. Zegra kind of looks like a manta ray, and I like that
Yes,
a lot because
yes.
manta rays are biologically like cousins of sharks, so it's not too far out of the stretch of imagination. But I just like Zegra, and I like his duck voice because it's fun. But I just like to have fun with my kaiju films.
Yeah.
That's all what I'm about.
Sounds like Mewtwo. In the dog.
Oh yeah, it does sound like Mewtwo.
Yes.
I guess we'll do another elephant in the room. I mean, it can't go beyond Godzilla without talking about War of the Gargantuans. You just cannot. And that when I did this panel in Salt Lake City at Panic Salt Lake, we had a nice audience, and I think the only film they had seen, we talked about Rodan, the Mysterians, Mothra, but War of the Gargantuas was the one that a lot of these people had seen. A lot of it was people that saw it at the drive-in, when they played at the drive-in. Some of it was just younger people like me going, hey, what should I watch next? I've seen all the Godzilla stuff, and everyone goes, War of the Gargantuas.
Yes.
Really dating myself here, I didn't see it at the time, but that was released initially on a double bill with Monster Zero.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
That's
Remember
right.
what year?
In fact, they, when Saperstein lifted some of the music from, that's why you hear the American record, you hear some of the Godzilla and Rodan theme while they're fighting at the end of the movie. And the march themes were replaced with some kind of stock music. I'm sorry, I didn't think of it.
That was 1970, I think that
This is
was.
what I want. I'd like you guys chiming in. It's great. I like my panels interacting with the audience and just being casual. It's nice. But, were you raising your hand, Ghostbuster?
Yeah, I think I saw Gorgo on Mystery Science Theater. I liked it a lot. It had very, very good effects.
I like Gorgo.
I think it was on the Netflix one.
Especially MSTK 3000 or MST 3000.
I don't really watch MST3K, but I did watch the Gamera ones, and they were fun. It was kind of my introduction to Showa Gamera, because that box set came out around the time I was buying kaiju films. But
They also riffed Godzilla vs. Megalon as well.
They did Megalon and Sea Monster,
Yeah.
and I don't think it's kind of hard to find those ones, especially
It is
DVD
very hard.
releases. They're
Yeah.
like super out of print. I do want to go back to Gargantuas though. I
Yes.
mean,
Brad Pitt was at the Oscars like 10 years ago, and they were asking everybody, like, what inspired you to become an actor? And Brad Pitt got up there and was like, man, there was this movie called Gargantuas, and the good Gargantua fought the bad Gargantua to vanquish evil, and I just really like those Gargantuas. I don't know if that was a good Brad Pitt voice, but he basically said that.
Hey, it beat my Don Fry voice imitation, so.
But it's crazy that like guys like Tim Burton and Brad Pitt, of all people, go to War of the Gargantuas as a heavily influential film for the stuff that they make.
Tarantino too.
Tarantino.
He brings it up often in his
Tarantino
films.
watches like a bunch of old genre films.
You can't mention War of the Gargantuas and not also mention the whole scene in Crank 2, High Voltage, where it's just a shot-for-shot recreation of the final battle in War of the Gargantuas.
Oh, now I gotta watch Crank 2, High Voltage. Is that a kaiju film?
No, because of that scene, yes.
Well, yeah.
Otherwise, no.
The Scooby-Doo fans will know what I'm talking about, but they have an episode, I can't remember the title, but it's literally, go ahead.
I think it was Attack of the Humongonauts.
Yes, Attack of the Humongonauts. Not Gargantuas, they're Humongonauts.
But Mystery Incorporated.
Yes, Mystery Incorporated.
Oh, is it really?
2012 theme. Yeah, they even have her, the lady sing, you know, The Words Get Stuck in My Throat, I think it's called. You know,
Yeah.
the song, Yellow Dress. Everyone knows that. But, you know, there's a big green monster and a big brown monster, and they're Humongonauts. I wonder where that came from.
The other one it's kind of stupid, it's kind of boring. King Kong Escapes is worth it just for the Doctor Who connection.
Oh, that was a classic.
I love
That's a good
King
one.
Kong Escapes so much.
That was a great movie.
Yes.
The King Kong is great.
Gorosaurus
Gorosaurus is one of my
looks
favorite monsters.
so real.
If you watch the English version, Paul Frees as Doctor Who.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Got
That
Akira
is
Takarada as the leading man. You got Doctor Who's the bad guy.
Yeah, the actor playing it looks like Peter Capaldi and is dressed like the William Hartnell.
He does. Yeah, he looks a little bit like William Hartnell.
I think it's actually supposed to be like H-U, not.
It is spelled H-U, but it's fun to say Doctor Who is the bad guy.
There was actually an animated TV series, which I remember seeing, that was loosely related to that film.
Wasn't it called the King Kong Hour or something like that?
Something like
King Kong show.
Yeah, it was King Kong Show, King Kong Hour.
that.
The It was, oh, I know that show, and I'm 25, dude.
And Dr. Who was actually in that episode.
Yeah, it was. I think King Kong Escapes was a loose adaptation of that cartoon because both were produced by Rankin Bass. I don't know if everybody knew that. Rankin Bass, you know, the holiday special guys, they produced King Kong Escapes.
And the Thundercats.
Oh, and the Thundercats.
Nice.
I forgot about Thundercats.
Not to mention the King Kong show is animated by Toei Studios, known for Johnny Sacco and Spectrum Man.
Yes.
Toei. We can't, you know, Toei's the writer home in the Sentai too.
Johnny Sacco, man.
That is another like gargantuous level thing that a lot of my mentors in the fandom have told me like was hugely influential to them. I actually have never seen Johnny Sacco in a Spine Robot.
Johnny Sacco is one of those series that you just have to watch. It's memorable. I know Alex gave me, I forgot which episodes they were, but he gave me.
That was the whole thing.
Yeah, oh yeah, it was the whole thing, wasn't it?
26.
Yeah.
You had only 26 episodes?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's it?
Yep.
Yeah. You didn't get out.
Yeah, I never actually saw the series, but I saw the movie edit. It was called
Thinking about-
Wasn't it?
Space.
Yeah, wasn't it? Wasn't what is it?
American International.
I'm trying to remember. There was a kind of like a double feature between Johnny Sacco flying and his flying robot with the Space Giants.
Space Giants.
Space Giants.
Oh yeah. Space Giants. I've seen a little bit of Space Giants.
God, I'm trying to. I know there's there is a film. I don't know if it was a film or an episode that they did together. That's dating back a while ago. I know my friend, he was telling me about it, but I'm still trying to find that episode to this day.
Johnny Sacco and Space Giants?
Yes.
I'm not sure about
Yes,
that.
they did like a crossover.
They did a crossover?
Yeah, they ended up doing a crossover. He told me.
Manga
My buddy
perhaps?
told me about it. Huh?
Manga perhaps?
I don't
They're,
know.
they're both based on manga.
Maybe.
I know that was a manga.
Yeah, both of them.
Manga probably.
Could be a manga crossover.
Maybe it was. Maybe it was a manga
Same
crossover,
artist.
But I don't know. He was telling me there was like an actual episode, but yeah, probably is.
For those of you that have seen Johnny Sacco, should I start with that re-edited movie or should I just jump right in the show? Whatever.
Yeah,
That's true.
that's true.
That's true. It'll spoil the whole thing for me. I didn't think about that. We're just talking. Welcome back. We're just talking about like Toho movies right now that we like. I've covered Gargantuas. You brought up King Kong Escapes.
Young Gary.
Mysterians.
Younger, yeah.
Young Gary. You brought up Reptilian. Reptilian's not Toho, but you know what I mean.
Reptilian, yes, it would have been better if it had the suits. Because the miniature work is actually pretty good in that movie.
Yeah. That's
But,
true.
it's just unfortunate that the filmmakers really didn't know what they were doing. But in my opinion, at least, it still ended up being a pretty entertaining movie, despite being terribly made. So.
What about Reptilicus?
It's alright.
It's alright.
I remember it, but it's been fun.
My first exposure to Reptilicus was on Billy's shirt, the Angry Video Game Nerd. And he did the top 10 giant movie monsters, and he put Reptilicus on it. He was like, just say the name, Reptilicus.
Have you just speaking about the Angry Video Game Nerd.
But yeah, what else was on that list? Oh, the Giant Claw.
Was it on that
that's
list?
the one. Yeah, he put it on one.
Did you guys watch? Oh, go ahead.
No. Yeah, that was the tagline. Bigger than an action.
It's as big as a battleship.
No,
Flying battleship.
because I feel like this should be also talked about too. The Angry Video Game Nerd, the movie, because they did also do the huge kaiju fight.
Death bosses or whatever in that
Yes,
movie.
they did the huge kaiju fight scene. It's a good movie.
I mean, if we're talking about iconic just scenes with a giant monster in them, I mean, Pee-wee's Big Adventure was one of my first exposures to Godzilla.
Oh, yeah, Gamma was featured in Pee-wee's Playhouse as well.
Gamma was in Pee-wee's Playhouse?
Clips
Oh, that's
of it.
right.
There was a later episode, The Accidental Playhouse. A Japanese man visited Pee-wee, and he brought out little clips of Gamera with him.
Oh,
I gotta
man.
see this. I just remember Pee-wee's Big Adventure because like I love heavy metal, as you guys may have seen with the Roaring Guitars panel. And so having
right.
Twisted Sister and Godzilla in the same sequence is like, that's me, man. That's what I'm all about. But yeah, we got like 5 or so more minutes, so we'll wrap this guy on up. But I just wanted to ask, as we do the last panel for the weekend before Jason Font kind of closes us off, have you guys had a good weekend?
Yes.
Good weekend.
How do you guys felt about the convention?
Better Charlotte.
I'd say better than last year.
Better than last year?
So it was better than Indy.
Were you guys, anyone else at Indy? You guys are at Indianapolis?
I'd say it's about on par with Indy, which was good.
I was in Indianapolis, but I wasn't up here. I was just kind of going around the showroom floor.
Yeah, this is, like I mentioned yesterday's panel, this is my first AMA, so I had a great time because I also have seen a lot of folks from the community, and I was happy to see a lot of familiar faces and just not go into the show, have like a panic attack and go, oh, what am I gonna do? And, just kind of drop to the floor, but
Hey David, what's your favorite Toho film?
oh,
I know you think it's boring, but the original Mothra.
I don't think it's boring anymore. I rewatched it.
Okay, never mind.
I pulled a Kong 76 on that one. I'm like, wait, this is actually really great. This is a masterpiece.
That's kind of how I feel about it. It's like every time I rewatch it, I forget, man, this movie's just
Pretty good.
fantastic.
I bought the Rebirth of Mothra soundtrack on Mondo's vinyl like a month or so ago. And I was actually floored because I was listening to it with my buddy, who's like a big music guy, and he was like, wait a second, this sounds like Jerry Goldsmith. And I was like, wait, you're right, it kind of does sound like Goldsmith. What's going on here? This is Mothra.
What Goldsmith scores have you heard?
I believe, the one I think of is the Star Trek stuff. I mean, I'm a little fuzzy right now just because I got that con fatigue, but I think of Goldsmith, I think Star Trek. I'm sure there's other stuff I'm forgetting because Goldsmith is one of those big league guys like John Barry that we mentioned previously. But
He did the first Planet of the Apes.
that's right. See, I knew I was missing something.
okay.
Have you seen Planet of the Apes? Just off the cuffs,
Yeah, I have.
off script.
That's got some tokusatsu connections to
Yes,
it too.
yeah, it does. Yeah, no, like, actually, I did a review of Planet of the Apes. This was totally off track, off the subject, but
Off script.
off the script. No, I've done a review for the original Planet of the Apes with Nick Huber. I remember doing that a couple years back, and I had to rewatch it because it's been years since I've seen it.
It's good.
Absolutely great film.
They filmed the crash scene at Lake Powell, and I live in Utah, so that's like my backyard.
Damn dirty.
There's a boat tour you can
Are you serious?
take. It's amazing.
I'm gonna fly home on Monday and do that. Alrighty. Anyone want to take us home with their favorite Toho non-Godzilla kaiju film? Take us home.
I gotta throw out Orochi.
Orochi,
Yes, that was a great one.
That's 96?
4.
94.
Oh my goodness. 94. I actually have not seen that in like 10 years. What do you like about it?
I'm a bit of an Eager fanboy, so just Eager with more heads.
There's a short film that Shinji Higuchi worked on early in his career called Orochi Strikes Again. It's a small little like indie movie made with the Daikon team. For those of you that know your deep cuts, Daikon is the Daikon 3 like anime convention. They have that crazy opening animation video for their convention set to Electric Light Orchestra. So that team worked on Orochi Strikes Again, and that's where Shinji Higuchi started his career.
Ooh, man.
It's a fun little indie movie about Orochi the Dragon, so I just thought I'd make that connection.
That's awesome.
It's on YouTube now, so it's easy to see again.
All right.
I can send it to you. All right, guys. Well, I'm gonna wrap this one up. Just get us out a little earlier, and I just wanted to thank a lot of you guys. I've seen at all the panels this weekend, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
I hope you guys have had a fantastic weekend. If you're going to G-Fest, I will see you there. If you're not, I'll see you at the next show. Thank you.
Same.
Guys.
Thank you, guys.